And welcome in, everyone, to another edition of the BIS Podcast, broadcasting live on the Marvin Network, where our goal is to bring you updates on local government technology and to mix in a little bit of fun as well. On today's episode, we're going over how you talk to people, a leadership topic that we'll be going over in today's episode, and we have none other than to talk with us about that is our own Casey Osborne. Casey, good to have you back on the podcast, man.
Great to be back, Josh, and good morning to you.
Good morning to you as well. Here to talk about how you talk to people, which for both of us is a kind of what we do here at BIS. We talk to a lot of people, and Casey, we always have kind of different, there's always different ways that you can approach conversations when we're out talking to clients. And I know both of us kind of have our own ways that we do it a little bit, but there's always those kind of fundamental things that you always kind of stick with when you start a conversation, especially when you're starting a conversation with somebody that you never met before. So, Casey, what do you find is the best approach in starting a conversation with a client or just somebody new that you just met?
Well, that's a great question, Josh. I think the biggest thing about starting a conversation with somebody new or even not new is just to make it about them and to be genuinely curious. I think maybe Ted Lasso said that best. Just be curious and show some care. I always like to know a little bit about them before we even start getting into the business, maybe a little bit about their story, how long they've been in their position or whatnot. And then when we get to the product/problem solving point of the conversation, what is going well for that client, start there and then immediately pivot into what are some of the frustrations or pain points they're having, which will now open up a genuine conversation going forward about how we can help. At that point, you've identified a problem, and hopefully that with BIS, we have a solution that can solve that problem or help solve that problem. But you got to start with genuine curiosity, a little bit of care approach, where they're from, how they've been, how long they've been in that seat. And then, try to establish a little bit of rapport before you get straight to business, because you're really just selling a trust and rapport with that opening conversation, I believe.
Awesome, and Casey's referring to that Ted Lasso quote by just be curious. It's actually from Walt Whitman, and that is a really cool episode. You need to watch it. That was a really good episode. Casey, what tips do you have in keeping the conversation going when you're out there talking to somebody new, potential client, or, just someone out there you're just meeting? What tips do you have to keep the conversation going the way you want it to?
It's kind of like coaching. You don't want to control the situation. You don't want to control the conversation, but you certainly want to guide it. So the main thing is going prepared. If you do know something about their background or about what some of their potential problems are, just make sure that you have some good questions, maybe about those situations, but definitely have good follow-up questions about really why you're here ultimately to solve those problems that that you can solve. Listen well, be genuinely curious, like I said. Take notes, whether it's mentally or physically. I know I immediately have to get stuff into my book. So if it is a 30-minute conversation, I'm trying to get as much down in my head and on paper. And then when I get back to the car, and making sure that you write down those important notes, whether it's about the person or the problem or the situation that you're trying to solve.
And listening is the big key. If I can take something out of my personal experience, is when I meet somebody for the first time, is listening to what they have to say, and more of what you're wanting to get out there. Listen to what they have to say first, and that way that conversation can build. And that kind of leads into my next question, Casey. We kind of talked a little bit about the do's of starting a conversation. What are some of the don'ts that you feel like trying to not bring up during that conversation?
Well, definitely you don't want to just try to control the situation. You don't want to interrupt. You don't want to be too excited to get to your point, too quick to get to your point. Just make sure you establish the rapport first, really. So no interrupting, don't jump ahead. Don't overcomplicate things. Try to make it as simple as possible. Be honest. Don't bend the truth. Shoot them straight. If you can help them, let's help them. And that's the good thing, right? If you can't help them, don't try to fabricate a solution that maybe would help them. That's just going to put you in a bind further down the road. So obviously don't interrupt. You hit it on the head, though. The main thing is to listen more than you talk. Try to understand where they're coming from so you can get there. But yeah, don't interrupt. Don't overcomplicate, and don't treat it like a transaction. I guess it's a relationship building.
All right, so we really talked about, the start of a conversation, the middle point of it, listening, seeing what they have to offer, what you have to offer. But what do you find, Casey, is a necessary stopping point, and maybe to continue that conversation at a later time? Where do you feel like it's the appropriate time to end that conversation for the time being?
Oh, for sure. I mean, obviously, if you have identified a problem and you can help that problem, then you're ready to move on to the next step or next conversation, whether it's at that point in time, depending how long you've been in that office or with that person. But that's a good stopping point. Okay, I understand what your problem is and understand how we can solve it for sure. If we've already talked about a next step, if you've already set up a demo, if you've already set up the second call with maybe a supervisor, somebody that they need to bring in to have that conversation. If that's been established, then you can, close that conversation around that as well. Or if you're sitting there and you're not getting anywhere, or the phone rings and he or she is getting pulled 18 different directions, the energy starts to drop. Those are just a few indicators that, the conversation probably needs to stop and there needs to be a second conversation. So being able to read that room and know maybe some indicators that would help basically end that conversation and start a new conversation about the next steps.
Awesome, man. And it's a great time to hear about those things for everyone out there starting a new conversation, whether, it's talking about business or it's just you're meeting somebody new for the first time. Always having those good little points of where to begin the conversation, where, in the middle, where do you pivot and stuff like that. And then at the end, where's the appropriate time to end it? Always good points to know when starting a new conversation. And Casey, I can't thank you enough, man, for joining us here today. Is there anything else that we need to mention before we sign it off today?
No, just enjoy your podcast, enjoy being a part of it, and thank you for your time.
It's always a pleasure to have you on, man, and can't wait to see you on here next time. And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the BIS podcast. We've been broadcasting live on the Marvin Network. Casey, again, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Josh.
No problem at all, man. You as well. And for Casey Osborne, I'm Josh Green saying until next time, so long and goodbye.